Hi, I'm Judy from Fox Cities Quilt Company, and this is Sunday from the Sewing Room, where we give you tips, tricks, and a few tutorials to help you with your sewing and quilting projects. If you like our videos, please hit that subscribe button below. So today I am going to show you how I took the two blocks. Remember we made the present blocks last week, and I put them together, and what I have made here is like a hot pad to put hot plates on your table, on your kitchen counter, and I also have made a little hang loop to go with it. So what I did was, you can use this with anything, two orphan blocks of any size. This one is quite large, this is 12 inches. But I wanted to show you that don't waste anything. Use your scraps, use your orphan blocks, and you can make something that is really, really useful. So let's get started. For this project, you're going to need your two blocks that we worked on last week, but you can use any two orphan blocks. If you have orphan blocks, feel free to use those no matter what size they are. But these are my two 12.5 unfinished blocks that we worked on from last week. I have two of them. And then I have a 2.5 by 8 inch piece of fabric that is going to be my hang tag for my trivets or my things for my pots or heavy casserole dish or hot things. And so I had a 2.5 inch strip left over from this part of my block, and so I'm just going to use that, and it's 2.5 by 8 inches. And then I have two pieces of Insulbrite. And these are cut the same size as my block. Now I had to use scrap because I didn't have enough. I only had a half a yard, but I was able to just zigzag and piece that together. So that is what we need to complete this project. So I want to show you how I'm going to make that hanging loop out of that 2.5 by 8 inch piece of fabric that I showed you earlier. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to fold this in half, wrong sides together, and give this a press. And that is going to give me a guide to fold this in half. And I'm going to press this towards the center. And then I'm going to flip this around and do the same for the other one. So what's happening here is your long edges are going to meet in the center. And I'm going to just give this a quick press so that it's nice and flat. And then I will press this together again so that you can see that my folded edges are together, and then I have another folded edge here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this to my sewing machine and edge stitch on each side. Okay, so you can see now that I have this all together, and I have edge stitched each side so that it makes a nice finished look. And I'm going to set this aside for a second. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to take my block and I am going to put a piece of Insulbrite behind each of these blocks. And I will show you this one. So I have my Insulbrite behind each of these blocks, and I am going to baste all the way around about 1/8 of an inch. And I will get that done quickly and come back and show you what that looks like. All right, so I have these basted, and I wanted to show you that I used quite a long stitch for the basting. And then the other thing I did, since I had it in there, was I did a stitch in the ditch around the package itself, and I think you can see that on this one and on this one. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my scissors, and if there's any extra Insulbrite sticking out, I'm just going to trim that off so that everything is nice and even. And then I can just sandwich these two together, right sides together. And then what I will do is I just wanted it off that side. That's pretty good. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to take my hanging loop And I am going to go ahead and put that in whichever side that you wish to have your hanging loop on. It can go on this side, it can go on this side, it can go this way. But I think I am going to put it right up here. And I'm going to make sure that this goes off the edge. And let me grab a pin. I was ill prepared. And I have my wonderful wonder pins here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this right in here. And I have it about a 1/2 inch, and I eyeballed it off the side so that when I do make my seam allowances, I can turn this. Then I'm going to take my other square and put that right sides together. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this in the corners so that it holds together. And then I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I am going to sew a generous, and I mean generous, 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around this square. And then what I do want to make sure that I do also is I'm going to leave an opening at the bottom about 2.5 or 3 inches so that when I'm done sewing this all the way around, I can turn it. And once I get that sewn, I'll be right back to show you. Okay, so I have stitched all the way around my block. I wanted to show you that. But I also wanted to show you what I did here when where I left my opening. So I went 1/4 inch in and then sewed out and all the way around. And when I got back down here where I wanted to turn out, I stitched out, and I'm going to show you why in a second. But what I'm going to do now is I want to clip away the corners so that I don't have so much bulk when I go to turn this right side out. But what you want to make sure that you don't do is you don't want to clip your threads in that intersection right there. So I have clipped this all the way around, and don't forget when you reach your hand in here to turn around, don't forget that we pinned that hang loop right in there. So I'm going to go ahead and carefully try and turn this right side out. It's kind of like birthing a block here, and it takes some time. So be patient because you don't want to rip your stitches either. So I'm pushing this right side out, and with 2 pieces of batting, it's going to be a little heavier. But let me get that pushed out for you and then show you what I do to finish it. So I have my block all turned inside out, but I want to make sure that my corners look a little nicer. But I'm not in my sewing room, so I'm still at my little vacation place. But I did find a chopstick. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the chopstick in there and push those corners out so that they look a little nicer. And I'm going to do that, but be careful you don't push too hard because you don't want to push a hole through your corners, because remember you clip those corners. Let me get this one in here. And that looks a little bit better. And I'll do this one as well, and that looks a little better. Now, remember how I sewed so that this went out and this went out at the end? So look how nicely that will pop a seam allowance right into place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly come in here and just press this really nice. And you can do 2 things here if you'd like. You can edge stitch this so that this stays together and looks nice. And maybe in your edge stitching, you can catch all of these together, or you can leave it as is and just whip stitch this closed. I'm going to edge stitch this, and I will show you how that turns out. All right, so I edge stitched all the way around this entire hot pad holder. You can use it for a hot pad or a trivet, or put your hot casserole dishes on here. And then I wanted to show you how I was able to catch everything in that edge stitching. If you don't like the edge stitching, you can certainly stitch this by hand, But for me, it was just easier because I just wanted it to all be held together. This is a really great project for those orphan blocks, for something quick, and all you need is a couple pieces of Insulbright, which you can get pretty much anywhere, and including at the shop. This is Judy from Fox Cities Quilt Company, Sunday from the Sewing Room. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.